Any of you people out there that find humor in this, you're really a sick, vapid person. You got no soul. If you think it's funny, this is a sick society. This has gone beyond the pale. You people should be ashamed of yourself.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Frank Stallone. Who is this guy? I am your host, and with me, of course, four-time returning, not guest host, Doug. You are the co-host of this incredible show, the number one show on the network, by the way.
Wow, really? Amazing. I feel honored that you asked me to be Dom's replacement, although I did have some big shoes to fill. I hope I'm doing it honorably and admirably. This is a fun time doing these shows with you.
What happened to Dom? Bless his heart. He wasn't having fun anymore. If you're not having fun, this could be a real drag to do. So I understand that. I appreciated his honesty and his willingness to go out on top, bow out as champ. So yeah, Dom bowed out as champ. We appreciate his great insights and humor. That's what we wanted. I didn't want a Dom. I wanted a Doug, if that makes sense. I don't want a Dom replacement. I just want Doug. You know, you're coming in, you're offering your Dugginess. So
never heard it been called that before, but I appreciate it.
And our listeners who have written in or commented have said that you're doing a great job. I don't understand this show's success. I don't get it. It should be dead in the water. But Frank just keeps living and providing things for us to find out, Doug. The whole point is we're just trying to find out, who is he? Who is this guy?
Right,
Why is he Frank? Why does Frank do what Frank does?
The good thing about Frank is he's the gift that keeps on giving. And I don't know if it's his lack of self-awareness or lack of awareness of general society and the norms and what's acceptable, but he's just a wealth of content for us.
He's a beautiful creature. Well, our last episode we did, he was a guest on a podcast. What was that podcast again? Boy, I already forget. It was what amazing podcast.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how quickly it comes and goes out of our brains.
But we have him returning on the Mike Torchia show.
How many times has he been on Mike?
I think this is the second time that we've covered. Now, Mike does mention the very beginning. I'm going to play the beginning because the whole beginning intro is a gong show. So we're going to play the beginning. So on this episode, Frank's not the only guest. He has with him, I guess, a boxer, an IBF boxer by the name of Paul Spadafora and his wife, Nadine. Mike's become a little bit more endearing to me. He seems like just a generally kind of a sweet guy.
He seems happy.
He's very happy about life. He's got these big, huge arms, veiny, huge arms. He looks like he can beat the crap out of me. But what I like about Mike, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to play the intro of his show. I love how he has a picture of himself at the age of 40. And then you see him as the host. So let's start the episode. He does the intro. So Mike will do the work for us. He'll intro the show, intro the guests.
This is the Live Well and Thrive podcast, hosted by Michael Torchia, health and wellness expert. It's time to shape up, America.
Hi, this is Mike Torchia, and welcome to Live Well and Thrive. I have an exciting group of friends here that you're going to enjoy their stories. I got Paul Spadafora and his lovely wife,
Nadine.
Nadine,
yes.
Sorry.
Nadine, sorry. So he forgot
her name. He does that later on too.
Yeah, rule number one there, Mike. You're a great guy, but that's podcasting 101. When I've interviewed people on my show throughout the years, I've written down their name. I'm like, I practice in my mouth, like, okay, I have this guest. Do not F up their name. Just read it from the cue card. Do not mess up their name. This is the most important thing anyone has is their name. Isn't that right, Dave?
You got me. That was good.
All right, so he's just introduced Paul and his wife, Nadine. Nadine's a lovely woman. She's pretty. You can tell she's extremely caring and patient. She actually runs a foundation or a group where she does help recovering substance abuse and stuff like that. So she seems to be in that field, which comes into play for her husband, Paul. We'll get into some of his stories. And then, of course, Mike's about to introduce Frank, who Mike says here he's been on many times, but twice on this current version of his podcast. Maybe he had a different show before the YouTube version, but here he goes.
And Frank Stallone, as you know, has been on many times. Paul recently came out.
So Frank said peace. Classic.
It seems Frank and these guests have no connection other than, the love of boxing.
I thought so too. Now we should let our listeners know. For our listeners, myself, Ryan, I listened to the first 23 minutes of the podcast, and Doug listened to the last 23. I have not heard the last 23. Doug has not heard the first 23. So again, the clips I'm presenting to Doug, he's never heard before. So he doesn't know how this podcast starts, and I don't know how the podcast ends, just like we did with the previous episodes. Just for our listeners' context, because you're asking questions like, how come Doug doesn't know this? Lest they think we're not prepared. I didn't clip it, but Frank does say something during the first half of this interview where he clarifies something to Mike. I think he says that's how they met, or that he seems to know them very well. There was some sort of indication. So I bet you Frank probably brought them onto the show.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't know. There seems to be an indication that they might know each other. Because he mentions like, that's their son that they had together. Something like familial that he would know information about them.
I was hoping that this was the beginning of Frank being Mike's permanent co-host or often co-host.
I agree. You took one of my notes. If this was the Frank and Mike show, boy, the content we get for years to come. So, Mike, if you're watching this, please have Frank on. He could be your Ed McMahon, your Andy Richter.
Just chiming in with, little bits of knowledge.
Paul, the boxer here, who's promoting the book that Mike's about to mention. So Mike's going to introduce the book that he has on display there, that he's telling all the listeners that must read about Paul's life. That's why Paul's here to talk about his life and promote his book.
With this amazing book, Fighting to the End, it's really something you've got to read this book. It's a must read. It'll tell his whole journey of what he's been through from his childhood to up to where he is today. Paul, welcome to the show.
Now, bless Paul's heart. There's a couple things here. Paul scares me, so I'm going to be very careful. Okay. This guy, when I say somebody can be dangerous, do you know what he's done? Because you haven't heard the first half. Do you know any of his past or what he's done? Okay. All right.
No.
I'm going to be very careful, Paul. I'm not making fun of you. But some things you say and do might come off as humor, so Doug and our listeners might go, holy crap, and laugh at it. So I make that clear because I don't want him to come after me.
You sound like you're really concerned about this.
A little bit. Okay. But that being said, I'm sure he's a sweetheart of a guy, but he's had a life. He's had a life is all I'm saying. Our first introduction to him is a little bit rough. Maybe he's nervous. He introduces himself and what the book's about, and Mike saves him.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit about the book and why you wrote this book.
Pretty straightforward question, right? Tell me about the book and why'd you write it?
I think so, yeah.
You can say, well, I've had a troubled life. I've been in and out of the system. I've done certain things I'm not proud of. I'm here now. I'm alive. I have a beautiful wife. And I want to help anyone, whether you're in the boxing life or not the boxing life, to show that you can get out of that mess. It's a real honor to be here, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Say that again after getting punched in the head 500 times a night.
It's a combination of, I think, substance abuse and your head being caved in.
Yeah, he's definitely punchy.
Well, I basically asked for the book when Chris asked me if he could do that. I basically just at the time at the time that he did this, I was just I want to help people. I really want to help people.
Well, the backstory so everybody understands.
Okay, so Mike saves him a little bit here. Yeah, a little rough. I know. Again, maybe he's not used to or being a guest on a show. Mike maybe should have told him, I'm going to ask you these questions. You might want to have something ready to go. But Mike, to his credit, bails him out. Okay.
He looks uncomfortable too.
He gets a little bit more comfortable as the show goes on. This next clip, okay, he starts off the show literally with a bang. He talks about why he knew that alcohol and drugs taken a real bad turn in his life.
Into these little benders with the alcohol and the drugs. And you didn't understand it till later on. When did you realize that you were sabotaging yourself and you needed to stop or make a change?
Okay, so Mike, good question. When did you realize the drugs and alcohol, this is too much now? It's gone beyond recreational. Your life is being, it's taking quite a turn. When did you realize this?
So when I was in the penitentiary.
Okay, fair enough. I've landed myself in jail. Mm-hmm. And Mike asks a follow-up question, which all the listeners are probably wondering, why'd you go to jail? Dealing drugs, maybe? You had drugs in your possession? What are some reasons people could go to jail, Doug, for drugs? Is it like possession and distribution? Or?
Yeah, usually those are the main ones.
All right, let's see why he went.
And what were you
One
in jail
time
for?
I was in a penitentiary.
So Mike stepped on him there. He goes, what were you in jail for?
Mm-hmm.
And he gets back to it.
I was in a penitentiary for shooting my wife.
Oh, my God. What?
I was in jail for shooting the woman next to me.
Wow.
And look at Frank's face.
Yeah, he doesn't want any part of that.
So to answer your question, maybe Frank doesn't know all this because he does respond react to this story the same way you and I just did. His eyes are up like, whoa, who did I bring on the show? Did we check for weapons before this episode started? Basically what happened was, actually, he might explain it really quickly. Let's see here.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, he goes, you know what I mean?
No, we don't know what you mean, Paul. Sorry. I can't relate.
Yeah, well, you know what it's like, Doug, when you're a little bit drunk and you shoot your wife. You've done that.
Yeah.
Come on.
Many, many times.
And how did that happen? That you shot your lovely wife?
I mean,
What caused
Well, Mike says, how did that happen? You obviously love your wife. To be fair, Mike, people have shot out of love too. I mean, it can be, marriage is very complicated. But
you to do that?
I was in a total blackout. I was drinking.
I wanted to go home. He wanted to keep drinking. Like, it was so stupid.
It was just something.
And then I got 2 flat tires.
Yeah, and then on top of that,
And he still wanted to keep drinking.
You, like shooting the woman you love, like.
But I wasn't even mad. Like, I was more mad.
Frank jumps in and he says, it must be very terrifying to shooting the woman you love. Yeah.
What about her perspective, Frank?
What's interesting here, this woman is an angel. I mean, I have a lovely wife and I have a wonderful, caring, beautiful wife. But boy, her temperament and her forgiveness level, it's beyond the bound.
Yeah, she's definitely his ride or die, as they say.
Yeah.
She's sticking by his side through the worst of it.
Now, I'm not going to make fun of Mike's setup here because he's got a studio. I don't have a studio. And I don't know if this is the engineer's fault or Frank set up the mics, but Nadine is the only one that has the mic working. Everyone else, I think, is feeding off of Nadine's mic. I don't know if you caught that. Everyone's audio is kind of hollow and quiet. Nadine, when she's talking, you hear her loud and clear. Everyone else is a little bit off. Then it's Frank, then Paul, and then last place is the host, Mike.
Really? I didn't.
Yeah. See if you can catch it. Listen to her talk. It's very clear. And then listen when someone else talks. Sounds more hollow and distant.
Mad that, like, the whole situation, because he just kept wanting to drink and he kept taking me all these, like, bars that I didn't want to be at. So it was like, after he shot me, he was like, I can't believe you just shot me. Like, I couldn't breathe because obviously, you know what I mean? And then, like,
you know what I mean, Doug. You can't breathe when you have a gunshot wound in your side.
She's pretty composed from having been shot, if that's how she responded.
You can't hear it. It's coming up very quickly here. So she just says, I can't breathe. I've been shot by my husband. And she sticks around with him. Frank says it very quickly and quietly. He's not trying to hide it, but you have to listen for it. But he says, that's devotion, boy.
we were still arguing.
That had
Like,
to be terrifying.
and I wasn't scared of him. Like, you know, like when it, like they all thought, like, I was like, no, don't take him away. I need him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, as they're like taking him in handcuffs, like,
Devotion boy.
That's devotion, boy. So she's pleading for the cops not to arrest the guy. That Doug, you're a cop, right?
I am, yes.
If you saw a woman bleeding from a gunshot wound, would you have to arrest the guy that shot her? Maybe
There's no what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you have to do it. Like, you can't. There's a word that cops always use when you can write a ticket or you don't have to, like, depending on how you're feeling in that moment. But
no, you have no choice. No.
The domestic violence laws are very clear.
Even if it was an accidental shooting, you still put the person under arrest because you're not the judge, jury. You're just saying, look, we got some questions. You have a gun in your possession. Even if it was accidental, we have to place you under arrest until we figure this out. We just
See
can't
the facts presented at the time, and we act based on that.
Of course.
Discretion,
right.
That's the word. There's no discretion in domestic violence cases.
I don't know if I got the clip, but this guy, Paul, so there was one time that he was handcuffed. I think it was during this story. He was handcuffed. He was tased 7 times by 7 different police officers while in handcuffs because he was fighting that hard. And he kept fighting back. He was so... Have you seen that kind of behavior before when someone's so drunk or on drugs that even tasing doesn't affect their...
Very small handful of times in my career, but I see videos of it more nowadays. And yeah, that seems like a very difficult situation to deal with.
So Mike brings up the reason why she stuck around, Nadine, with Paul after being shot is because she's Italian.
So Nadine, you must be Italian.
I am Italian.
Okay.
Russo.
Only an Italian woman would
stick with that
would put up with
or
that
shoot him.
crazy-
Can't think it's like, it's fine. It's fine.
So
It's fine.
I should have married an Italian woman. I don't put the dishes in the dishwasher properly, I'm in trouble. But boy, if I married an Italian woman, the kind of stuff I could get away with. Is that true? Is that I don't know. Are Italian women that way?
My wife Samantha is half Italian, and
Oh.
no, she doesn't take shit.
Oh, okay.
She doesn't. She takes none of it.
You haven't tried shooting her yet?
Maybe I'll try that. See if
All
I
right.
can get her in line.
Here's a love story.
This is 2002 we
I
met.
was
Oh,
fighting.
2000.
He just had his daughter. I just had a daughter. And we kind of bonded over that because we really didn't like our babies, peoples.
They both had kids from a previous relationship. They both didn't like the people that they had children with. So they bonded over their mutual hatred of their partners who produced their children. So that's a good way to start. Okay. The love story continues.
Together. Like I literally moved in his house like that the same day. Like
Yeah.
as soon as we hooked up, we never left each other.
One night in the hay, and they've lived together right
Yeah.
after that. And they're,
This seems like a very unhealthy and toxic relationship.
I wish them all the best. They're still together. But to me, this is a lot. This is a lot for me. I
Yeah.
couldn't handle this type of chaos.
Yeah.
Oh, I just wrote here, Frank is not sure what to do.
An incident was at the point when you started working on the stopping of the drugs and the alcohol.
No, he didn't stop that till recently.
He's asking, like, is this when you started cleaning up your life? She's like, no, he hasn't been clean since till recently. Is he clean now?
That's what it seems like. Yeah, he
Okay.
goes to AA meetings and stuff.
Yeah, and I get it. I understand. It's a daily struggle. The saying is once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, even if you're clean for 30 years, because your daily struggle with it. So again, Paul, we wish you all the health and strength.
Really?
Yeah, I actually went to Pittsburgh to save him because he died 4 times. Because Paul's the type of person, if he's drinking and somebody hands him a pill, he's going to take the pill and he don't care. He's like, oh yeah. So he fentanyled.
So
Oh
Frank
my
just goes,
God.
yeah. So it sounds like he's an easy break. I hate to say it. So he's got to really make sure he surrounds himself with people that, because she says if you just give him a pill, he'll take it.
Well, he's clearly impulsive. He does things without thinking about it. You don't premeditate shooting your wife. Well, I mean, some people do, but if you actually love that person, it's very impulsive, the stuff that he does.
So Frank responded to that of his addiction, and he goes, Jesus. I don't know if you caught that. It's very subtle.
Sorry, I probably stepped on it.
No, that's okay. But Frank does try to offer support.
I think it was probably good for you to get away from the keys, rocks, and all that stuff. It's just too
I
familiar
wanna tell you,
stuff.
I'm just going to say, honestly, I would never, ever, and I listen, I'm bad with alcohol right now.
He goes, I'm battling with alcohol right now.
Battling with alcohol.
Right now, he said.
Yeah. If he's recently in recovery, once you're hooked, every day, even in recovery, is a constant struggle.
So Frank was trying to offer support there, saying, yeah, it's a good thing you got away from that situation that you were in previously, run for those people. And Paul says, well, actually, I'm not. I'm battling with it right now. Frank's like, geez, I don't know what to do here. Frank, it's not very often that we see Frank speechless. He does pipe up. Don't worry, folks. This is Frank Stallone. Who is this guy? But fascinating interview in general that Frank's a part of. But Frank does chime in very quickly here. I call this clip Dr. Frank.
You know what I'm saying? But it's every day. It's one day at a time.
One day
It
at a
really
time.
is one day at a time.
I know guys have been sober. I mean, when I say like him, bad alcoholics.
I love how he says, like him.
Like him.
He
Bad, the worst, the scum of the earth people like this guy right here.
I can know some alcoholics who are bad, just like this guy over here. More Dr. Frank here.
It's a chemical thing.
Yeah.
It's an allergy.
Have you ever heard of alcoholism referred to as an allergy?
An allergy. I don't know, Frank. Can you elaborate, please?
Well, that's what I love. So he refers to it as an allergy, which I think is a fantastic. I'm allergic to alcohol. Achoo! Get that stuff away from me. I get the sniffles.
It's that time of year again. The alcohol just is getting to me. My eyes are
Honey,
tearing.
put away the beer. I'm sneezing again. There's Dr. Frank.
They drink. Their whole chemistry goes. They might be, hey, how you doing? Nice. I've seen guys after a few drinks. I go, so what do you think about it? They go, what'd you say, man?
Yeah, they're ready to fight
Whoa.
you.
I mean, it's like,
His segues, as we know, the Frank segues are all over the place. Yes, Frank, there are people who are born with the alcohol gene. We know this. This has been proven that they have a proclivity for drinking, that somebody can drink a glass of wine, they're fine. Somebody else drinks a glass of wine, they can become an alcoholic. As you know, alcohol affects people differently. Great.
Yeah.
That's the chemical thing he's probably referring to. It's innate in some people.
That makes
and then
more
you-
sense than the allergy thing.
Yeah, well, I'm not a doctor. I'm not Dr. Frank. Frank was also saying that, yes, some people can become angry drunks, and some people become lovable, goofy drunks. Again, it depends on your personality. So he's saying, yeah, some people have a couple of drinks, and you ask them, how you doing? And they look at you, I'm going to kill you. That's true. We've seen those type of drunks. I'm sure you have too, Doug, in your time.
Absolutely.
Frank mentions coming up here, he gives a call back to the allergies condition.
A couple of my friends got life. You understand what I'm saying? So my best friend's doing 20 right now. And I'm just saying.
This guy's surrounded by chaos. Like his best friend's doing 20. He talks later, I don't know if I have the clip, that he has a brother who's buried because of drugs. Poor guy. This guy is surrounded by chaos.
Environmental factors in here, I do believe that the situation that you grow up in also contribute to,
of course.
It's not just all poor choices. If you're surrounded by it growing up, you're going to fall into it too.
Absolutely. This poor guy, Paul, like it's unfortunate that people can't have me and Doug, we're not perfect parents, but I suspect your home. I've seen your family pictures and your family outings and your boys and your little girl. Like I see them and like, you can tell they're happy. You can always tell when there's a functioning, happy upbringing versus one that's chaotic.
Right.
As an officer, of course, you've seen both sides of the coin.
I have, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right.
As soon as I put something in that alcohol in my body, man, I think I'm the Incredible Hulk. I turn into somebody that I'm not. Yeah. It's almost it's a shame because it changes me. It changed me completely. My whole everything changed.
So you're able.
Very quiet, but he says that's the allergy. He says when you have the drink, you turn to the Incredible Hulk. So this guy's saying that every time I take a drink, I want to kill somebody. I want to shoot my wife. I want to punch people. When he's sober, he doesn't feel that way. So he's explaining that, yes, he does become a changed personality when he drinks. And Frank says, that's the allergy.
This is supposed to be a comedy podcast, Ryan. What are we doing?
I know. I'm trying here. I'm trying.
No, I know. We're going with the information that's given to us. This guy's got a hell of a backstory, so we might as well cover it.
You know Oscar De La Hoya, right?
Not personally, but I know who he is, yes.
Yeah, I just like the moniker Frank calls him.
It's like, put this way, Oscar De La Hoya is very upfront with it. Oscar De La Hoya, through his whole career, was a cokehead.
Jeez.
I just love how Frank goes, Oscar De La Hoya is a cokehead.
Oscar might take exception with that, Frank.
Frank pipes in real good here. So we've heard a little bit of Paul's upbringing here, the crimes, the drugs, the alcohol, but Frank can relate to Paul's journey. Check it out.
So now you got millions of dollars, Rolls Royces, as you know, all the hangers on, and then you get in trouble with women, whatever. But the thing is, you have to have a good team. It's like we were talking about before. If you don't have a good, solid team behind you, you could be the greatest guitar player, the greatest singer, greatest boxer. But if you don't have a team that is watching you and moving you in the right direction,
I ain't no manager.
We're back to that.
Yes.
Oh, he's talking about the team behind him.
Yes. Even if you're the best guitar player, singer points to himself, and then he goes, or the best boxer points to Paul, your life can go to shite because I ain't no manager. And then Paul will step on him. I don't know if I got the clip, but Paul, she says afterwards, no, he goes, I had a great manager. Paul says, the mistakes were mine.
Oh, imagine that.
Yes.
Imagine like self-reflection and actually like looking inward. Wow, Frank.
You'll probably agree with me. The music world and the boxing world have a lot of similarities with the drugs, the alcohol.
Yeah, bad
issues.
promoters and bad managers.
So again, bad promoters, bad managers. Yeah. So look at him blaming the promoters and managers on his lack of success. Frank, where's your tell-all book? Now that would be a fun book to break down chapter by chapter. Holy shit.
Yeah, that would be. You think he reads it himself, the audiobook?
Oh, I hope so. Chapter 12. My hair was receding. Time to get plugs.
You know what? He might actually write a book in the near future.
He better hurry. Okay. So Paul jumps in here, I think. This is where he jumps in, I think.
Let me tell you something, though. I'm going to tell you. I honestly, God, I swear to God, I love my managers to death, Jimmy.
There you go. Mm-hmm. He talks about them, how great they were. And Frank's face is like, oof.
Just me then? I'm the only one that had bad promoters and managers?
Just me and Mickey? Is that it?
Yeah.
It wasn't them. They'd have to arrest me. I would need to be arrested. They would fly. I was living out here.
So he goes on to say the choices he made were they would have to arrest me and lock me up because of the choices I made. My management did all they could to protect me and help me. They were incredible. So look at Frank's face because he knows he just kind of got shited on there.
Yeah.
Mike and Frank were saying, yeah, boxing and the rock and roll world, they're the same. And Paul's like, well, I don't know. I had a good team around me. It was my fault.
It's very coherent of him to recognize that.
So coming up here, Frank gives some incredible parenting advice. You're a parent, right, Doug?
I am. I just had to attend to my children.
That's right. We had a little bit of a break there, which the audio and visual audience knew nothing about. That's how good we are. We're such a seamless show.
You're an editing master.
Yes. And Frank gives some parenting advice because Frank, too, is a parent. He doesn't like to talk about it very often, if at all, ever. Let's hear what he has to say about parenting.
But a lot of dysfunction, no like love or like, oh, you're going to school.
So he's talking about his own upbringing where he did not get a lot of love and affection from his parents, a lot of hugs. Oh, you're off to school. Here's a hug and kiss goodbye as you go off to school. So Frank didn't get that. So he knows how important it is to be a good parent.
None of that stuff like that. Like, hey, get out of here. So, but the thing is, then you develop a thing of like you don't have any self-worth because you're not getting validated. Now you see some of these football players that are unbelievable. I want to thank my mom and dad. They were there the whole time. I mean, when you see that, sometimes I get teary-eyed because their father and mother were there, came to every game. So.
Yeah, very interesting. So he's saying when he sees a football player win the Super Bowl, thanking their mom and dad for taking them to the practices, supporting their journey. Thanks, Mom. He gets teary-eyed because he didn't have that growing up.
Yeah.
Well, thank God he has the opportunity to rectify those mistakes as a parent himself.
Be the dad that he never had.
I wish him all the best as he does the same for his offspring. Good job. That's sound advice. Would you say that's great to see that Frank can introspect and see how to be a wonderful, good parent because he didn't have that growing up, and he's now telling us all as parents, this is something you can do for your family. So good to hear.
Very happy for
him. That. My brother and I didn't have that. He didn't have that.
Yeah, your father gave you guys a hard time.
Oh, right? He was a brute. He always wanted to punch someone in the nose. But I'm just saying. But if you don't have that validation as a kid from your parents, like affection, hug, and we love you no matter, we'll back you, whatever you can do.
Oh, so if your son or daughter comes up to you and says, hey, Dad, I want to go to Hollywood and I want to try this thing called acting or whatever, I would suspect Frank would say, that's wonderful. I want to validate that. I want to support that. Hey, I've actually got a little bit of a foot in Hollywood. And let me introduce you to some of my friends and build a network.
As long as your own talents and everything can carry you, getting a foot in the door, there is nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with the foot in the door. Absolutely. Family taking care of family. I'm glad Frank's taking his own advice here. That's good.
It's a lot easier. Mine's not as bad as his, but it's bad enough that brings in self-doubt, brings in self-worth. So then when you become successful, what you work for, then you really, am I really worth it? And that's where the self-sabotage comes in.
Self-sabotage?
He did not get validation and support from his own family.
Mm-hmm.
So he's maybe self-sabotage or self-doubted his own career. Family.
So it's not the managers then?
Well, we know with Frank, we're never sure where it lies.
Okay.
He kind of scares me a little bit, but he does say that he had the best mother.
My mother started smoking that crack, and remember when New Jack City came out?
Yeah.
So around that time,
New Jack City came out. Now we don't know if that was the theatrical release or the VHS release, but around that time,
his mom was going to see New Jack City in the theater and then piping up after.
So I'm sorry, Paul. I mean, this is heartbreaking.
You know what I mean? But my mother was the best mother you could ever have because she made me tough as hell.
And look, my mom has her faults, I admit. I have mine as a parent, but thank God smoking crack's not one of my faults.
Yeah.
I have 2 sons who are adults and married themselves. I got 4 to go still. But my 2 adult children, maybe I should give them a call and say, you know what? I could have been tougher on you. I could have been a crack addict.
Now, he became tough because he probably had to fend for himself a lot.
Sure.
Because his mom wasn't available.
So he talks about how that toughness, like this guy is tough. So he says when he goes into the ring, that's all he sees is blood. He fights to survive. That's why when he fought the cops, handcuffed with his hands behind the back, he was beating up cops with no arms, being tased 7 times. This guy caught in a corner is a dangerous man in the ring. So he takes that same mentality in the ring. That's why he scares me a little bit. This guy is dangerous. He says he's never been to fight in prison, but who's going to fight this guy in prison?
Yeah.
People kind of know. You kind of know when this guy steps in. Go ahead. He'll tear you apart.
I got Rodney King in Pittsburgh. I was
You
tased
did sue
7
them.
times. No.
Oh, that time.
I was tased 7 times. I was on my. You know
They
what?
put a bag over his head.
You know what my lawyer told me.
Well, that's right. So he's telling the taste story, and Nadine keeps jumping. He keeps shushing. That's what it is.
Yeah.
He keeps shushing. Let me tell the story. I'm telling the story. Nadine's like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is crazy. Even Frank's like, Frank and Nadine are both like, please do not do this. Please do not do this. But he's kind of serious. It's hard to understand what he's saying here, so I'm going to spoil a little bit. He wants to shave his head completely. I think he says he wants to put a tattoo on his head showing the gun to his head, like almost like a suicide thing to represent this kind of behavior is suicidal. It's a representation, a reminder not to live that life because it's like killing yourself. It's a very aggressive reminder.
And Eddie is a tattoo guy, and I was telling, I told my brother, and I told her, I was gonna get, I really want to get my head bald.
I'll die.
And put
I know. How do you think, Frank?
And just put like, there's a thing with the gun, putting it right to where the drink is.
Put the gun where the word is drink is on his head to show, and he puts the gun motion under his chin to indicate suicide.
Mm-hmm. My face on it, and
put his face on it.
So I could remind myself, as soon as I pick that up, it's not even no joke, Mike. Like when I tell you it's no joke, it's serious. It don't get no.
This poor guy and his demons, man. Your heart breaks for him. This is how he recognizes how terrible the alcohol is, that he wants to tattoo his head with his face on it with a gun and the bottle saying, if I keep drinking, I'm going to kill myself.
Sounds like a very busy tattoo. I don't know. I don't know how that would translate.
What would you recommend? Just the gun, maybe? Just the gun?
I wouldn't recommend any head tattoos, but that's just me.
No, I'm sorry, guys. This is a really dark episode. I apologize. Maybe Doug's second half will be better. I have one more clip. Frank does his homeless person impersonation. He talks about the show The Contender. Remember that show The Contender was 2006 or so? It's a fun reality show. I quite enjoyed it. And I guess Frank was on the set. And he was talking about how people were just coming off the street wanting to be a part of the reality show, The Contender. Some of them were homeless, so he does his impersonation of homeless people.
He comes up, I think I could try out. His whole life was in a shopping cart. And I saw a lot of it in New York. 2 guys would come in that really got punched too much. I think I could come in.
It sounded like an early John Travolta, like Barbarino. Not Barbarino. Who do you play? Did he play Barbarino?
Yeah. But look at Paul over there. He's like, you making fun of how I talk? Look at his face. Look like he's ready to kill Frank right there. All right, that's all the clips I have. What do you have in your second half?
We got a good balance here because yours was Paul heavy. All right. I went all Frank stuff because
nice.
As fascinating as I found Paul, he upset me because I just wanted to, smack him in the head and say, get it out. What are you trying to say? Because he stutters and stammers. If anybody wants to know how to define punchy, just listen to this guy speak.
Well, they did talk about in the first half of the interview. It takes a special kind of person to put themselves in the ring. One of the good things that Frank did say, I didn't clip it, was the type of person that gets in the ring to fight probably didn't have our upbringing.
Right, yeah.
I admit, I'm a baby. I don't want to be punched. Yeah. I can go my whole life without being knocked out, Doug. I can do it. I'm fine with that.
All right, you got hobbyist boxers, but they're not
exercise and
sparring, that kind of thing. But you're not fighting pro, like really taking the headgear off and going to town. We love Frank's stream of consciousness, synapses firing so much that I got one here. I don't know what point he's trying to make.
Oh, it's always valuable, whatever he's trying to make.
He trains really hard. He was in the gym today. He loves it, but that's probably his, I hate to say it, like, when you're a little kid, you have a binky blanket. It's like your security thing.
Yeah.
He's comfortable in that thing because that's what he knows. And he also gives knowledge to young kids, which I guess it kind of vilifies yourself. In other words, you're passing on this information. You're doing something. You're channeling something good. Because, like I said, the idle time is the devil's playground, bro.
I have a friend.
What is the point? What is the point?
Let me see if I can follow this. He was at the gym. That's a safety zone. So that was the binky blanket. So when a baby has a binky blanket, that's their comfort zone. That's where they feel safe. So he feels safe at the gym. Okay, but then how does he vilify himself helping kids?
Doesn't vilify mean you're a villain?
Yeah, to vilify is to make something bad. You're making something
Did
bad.
he mean validate himself, maybe?
I think so. I think that's the V word he was looking for, validate. To validate his being by helping out.
By helping younger kids.
No offense to Paul, but I don't think my kids are going to your gym. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't let my kids in anywhere near you. No offense, Paul. Again.
No offense, Paul. You would understand. I hope you understand. I know personally when I'm communicating with somebody and I want to be heard, I always want to be vilified too.
All right. We got a couple of thirsty old men.
Okay. All right. Let me guess, Mike and Frank.
So it's really cool.
You look fantastic, by the way. Your
Thank
skin
you.
is like silky
This
smooth.
is a 21-day cleanse.
I just did a 21-day cleanse before Thanksgiving.
I also like how Frank points out that she just finished a 21-day cleanse. Like she just finished shitting her brains out for 21 days.
Is that what that is? Like
A cleanse? Yeah, it's really just like cleansing out your digestive system.
See, you're right though. Mike, he's 70. She's what, 40, maybe 40 something. But
he's talking about her silky.
What was silky smooth?
Her skin.
Oh no.
And then Frank says, yeah, she's been shitting her brains out for 21 days.
Okay, that was so quick. Okay, got it. Okay.
Talking about Paul being a Virgo.
Oh.
That's the biggest battle I have is alcohol. That's the
And he's a Virgo
it's
like
not a
you.
Joke.
He's a Virgo like you. So you know Paul's birthday and Mike's birthday and that they're Virgos. Why?
I don't even know my wife's sign.
I know, right?
But when I'm cooking, I don't even look. I know where the parsley is, the pepper. So I'm like this.
That's awesome.
It's automatic. But you know what I mean? Because being a Virgo, we understand each other.
Well, the Virgo thing would.
Now they're connected with their zodiac signs?
Yeah, I guess so. You know what I mean? Because we're Virgos. We get it. Hey, we're Italians.
Hey,
Parsley. And the oregano.
He's talking about finding the spices without looking on his rack. And he turns to Paul. You know what I'm talking about? When you're cooking, you know where everything is in your kitchen. Because
I
we're
guess
Virgos.
Virgos are seriously organized. I don't know.
Right here, Virgos are often considered organized due to their reputation for being detail-oriented, analytical, and practical. There you go.
Okay.
I mean, you know what? It's funny if I asked it about Scorpios, it'd probably say the same. Who knows all this crap? It's so self-serving.
Right. I know. It is.
When he boxes, he's methodical. That's the.
I saw the video.
He's very
but that's the
detailed.
Man, you're
Virgo
like a machine.
But that's
Shifting
the
your
detail.
feet, moving around, spinning around.
Well, that's the detail.
But listen to how many times Frank is trying to get his point in. But that's the Virgo. But that's the detail. But that's the detail. But that's the Virgo. He tries to jam it in there like 5 times.
Why are we so hung up on Virgo? What's the deal with the Virgo talk? So if you're not a Virgo, you basically should enter the ring, essentially. Okay.
I guess. I say
Okay.
this man can't finish a sentence.
Oh boy.
Wow.
You
So,
know what I mean?
boxing. People think it's like a chess game. You got to. That's what Ray Leonard was great. He was 4 steps ahead of most guys.
Man.
He knew. He would figure out you out after 1 or 2 rounds. He knew what you were going to do. He was. It's a chess game.
Jeez.
I know why he just blathers when he goes into a statement. I don't know if he knows the direction it's going to take. He just starts talking and kind of just spitballs and makes it up as he goes. I don't think he starts a sentence knowing where it's going to end.
Everything he says about anyone, it's always that's the thing. Virgo for the boxing. Then now this guy, he's playing 4D chess. Frank has an answer for everything about everyone and how they succeed. I guess some people are just better boxers than others at the end of the day. When it gets down to it, MMA, boxing, hockey, football, some of it's luck of the draw. They say every boxer has the one punch that can knock you out. If it gets through and you get hit, you're going down, no matter all that preparation or whatever it is. But I just love how everyone always has it's 4D chess. He's a Virgo. Sometimes it just is. You step in the ring, anything can happen in sports. At the end of the day, as you know, that's what makes sports what it is. Nothing's for certain.
Right.
That's why they do betting. I'm not going to go to the bettings. Hey, I'm going to bet on this boxing match. Yes, sir. Who's the Virgo? Who plays 4D chess? Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Is there a headline for this?
The note doesn't make sense. It said one of the great what Frank.
I do the same thing. I'll make notes and then I'm like, why did I make that note? And then listen to the clip. Okay.
I got a chance to be with Pernell Whitaker for
One of the
3
greats.
years straight. 3 years straight.
One of the great.
And I'm telling you what, I learned so
It was like he started to say so. One of the great what? Like one of the great
Greats, maybe one of the greatest ever.
Like one of the great what?
Boxers, maybe. Frank, to his credit, we know he's a boxing historian. That's his passion, his you can almost say his hobby passion, that he knows a lot about boxing. In his world, everyone's great. At some point, again, I love hockey, but if I start just listing off 1,000 different players, it gets to the point where, well, who really is good? I guess everyone's good to make the NHL because you have to make the NHL. So I guess in Frank's world, it's the same idea. To make it to the top, you got to be good. I get it, because there's 1,000 boxers who never, make the light of day. Sure.
Next, we go to now. Leading up to this clip, they were talking about southpaws.
Oh,
now
great.
when you hear the word southpaw, what's the first thing that pops into your mind? And do we know one of the most well-known southpaws in history, or in
movie history,
fiction?
It would be Rocky. It would be Rocky movie.
So they're talking for a while about southpaws, and I was just waiting for it. I was waiting for it, and here's the payoff.
Did Frank disappoint?
Let's see.
Let's see.
As Tony told me I had to be a southpaw, he immediately kicked him out the gym.
See, a lot of fighters don't want to fight southpaws because you're fighting a guy backwards. He's backwards too. So you're used to fighting a guy where this jab's here, but this jab's... So it's like...
I think Rocky explained it to Adrian on their first date.
South Camden, southpaw.
Like in Rocky. They don't want to use southpaws because they're backwards.
Wow.
Like Marvin...
Oh, wow. I've never heard that story. What I don't understand, too, is I've heard now, and I'm not as smart as Frank regarding boxing anyways. I've heard now that that's really not so much. They learn both ways now. Like, I've heard the best know how to fight both ways.
Yeah. Well, that's what Paul was saying, that he's naturally a righty, but he learned how to fight southpaw.
Oh, look at me. Look at me.
Yeah.
I didn't even hear that.
Yeah, no,
that's
not even great insight.
Like, Frank should know that yes, that was in the Rocky film. We get that, but that was almost 50 years ago, and fighting has changed. That the people that are fighting today, I'll go back to hockey. The worst hockey team today, whoever's in last place right now of today, would destroy whatever team 50 years ago that was the best.
Right. Yeah.
The speed, power, size, they'd be destroyed.
I say that about Major League Baseball too.
Yeah, boxing, baseball. So I would say you get a boxer of today fighting Jack Dempsey. That boxer has so many skills and insights now in the science of that wasn't around back then.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of. It's very scientific. Now keep this clip playing, because Frank equates fighting both ways to another sport.
Left-handed, he's right-handed. They switched him too. Because it's an advantage and a disadvantage.
That's why he's so good. That's why
and he
was
fought both
so
sides.
Good at
So does Crawford can fight both sides. Like Mickey Mantle could hit both sides.
He's kind of saying how rare it is. You know what I mean? Like, these are special cases, guys that can fight both ways. And Mickey Mantle, although yes, he was one of the greatest without question, the greatest switch hitter of all time, there have been thousands. It's not that rare to be a switch hitter.
I do like the shot here. Again, our audio listeners won't see what I'm talking about. The different camera work in Mike Torchia's studio. But I love how they got a screen there with the podcast symbol. I like how the shot here of everyone here. But you got the Mike Torchia, live well and thrive. What do you think that picture there of Mike's face, 20 years ago?
At least, yeah. That's probably Mike in his prime.
Sure. He's very handsome, fuller head of hair, much younger. But I'm not trying to be rude, but it's almost like catfishing your audience a little bit. Yeah, come on. Mm-hmm. Sure, I was very handsome when I was a teenager. We're not those men anymore, Paulo.
And for the audio only listeners, maybe that's the picture they have in mind.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Next, we got. I said they pay Frank no mind. Why is he even here?
Yeah, okay.
Fighting?
Always fighting. Always fighting.
Oof.
Did she snort?
Coughing. She coughs into the mic more than once.
It must have come in the second half more than she probably held it in for the first half. Okay, she did pretty good for the first half. Okay,
yeah.
Poor Nadine, and she's the one with the best mic too.
Yeah.
I say fighters are born. You can't. It's something inside. Whether
Virgo.
Yeah, that's right.
Like Hagen does, whether it's judo, whether it's boxing, whether it's karate. When you get to the level of world championship, they're born. You can't make it. You can't develop it. It's like a singer. You can't teach someone to sing. Singers can sing and then improve on their singing, but they know how to sing. You know, if a kid just doesn't coordinate, he's just like it's just innate. It's just something you're born with.
How old were you when you?
Yeah, we can also get into what he says, but right here, Mike goes right back to Paul and asks him like a question unrelated to anything Frank says.
Okay, I see. So Frank was basically saying, yeah, he's right in the sense, again, people are born able to do certain things. It is weird. I don't know how the human. I don't get it. I don't get why humans even exist, and I don't understand why we are born with different abilities, different bone structures, different physical strengths, different brain IQs, and DNA is a crazy thing I don't understand. He's right. I actually can't sing. To some degree, I'm sure if you trained me with a professional singer, at some point I might be able to pass off as decent with enough training. But naturally, some people just come out of the womb singing.
What if you started training when you were 6 years old?
Maybe. You're right. Some are naturally drawn to things. That's the other thing too. It's like one of my favorite guitarists, of course, was Slash from Guns N' Roses. He talked about how it was just in him. He just picked up a guitar and he never stopped. He literally played till his fingers bled every day. After it's all he would do is play. That you don't teach that. Is what I'm saying. He was born with that drive. I got to play this freaking guitar.
Mm-hmm. My brother-in-law, he's my wife's brother. Born in Korea, my in-laws adopted him when he was very young, 3 months old or whatever. Wow. And the kid had never had any formal training, but he is smart as a whip, phenomenal at anything he picks up. He's a great musician, played keyboard, guitar, a wonderful artist. Without any training, became a tattoo artist. He's just gifted.
He's Korean by blood.
Korean by blood, yeah. Having all that talent and doing almost nothing with it. Like he's 30 years old and he doesn't have a job and he doesn't have any direction in life. But just to have that talent, just to be born with stuff like that is incredible.
That is interesting.
Not athletic though. Good skateboarder, but not like athletic. Okay. But some people are, I guess, more drawn to the arts. Some are more drawn to sports, I guess. So I mean, in a way, I think I agree with Frank here.
The funny thing about Frank, it's not about him being wrong all the time. It's not even about that. It's just it's presentation.
Yeah,
it's the presentation is hilarious. Okay, so you gave about 2 minutes of sound clear. Yeah, we're just sort of born with it, and do we hone it? So you're saying Mike doesn't tag this? Is that what you're saying?
Not one iota.
Okay, let's check it out.
How to sing. If a kid just doesn't coordinate, he's just like it's just innate. It's just something you're born with.
How old were you when you won in '99 the IPF?
23.
Look at Frank's face. Oh, poor Frank. I never felt so bad for him here. This is really...
Yeah, he's like, I really, really nailed that one. I hit that one home and nothing. Nothing.
So, Paul, how old were you when you won the belt? And Frank's like...
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I.
And who did you beat in '99?
Israel Cardona.
Wow. Tough guy.
Yeah.
Dynamite drop in money.
All right, that one was a quick cut. But do you think that Frank even knows who Israel Cardona is, or is he just hears a name and he's a fighter? He's probably pretty tough.
Okay. Tell me that so-and-so fought so-and-so. Okay.
Yeah. Back when Frankie Edgar and John Jones had that big fat...
Tough guys. Tough guys.
Yeah.
See, I don't know who they are, but I assume if they're the MMA kicking each other's ass, they're probably tough guys.
Pretty tough. Yeah.
That's all.
Some things you could glean just by the context clues. All right. My only note here is wrong.
Let me tell you something, but I gotta
Tell
go.
when he hit you. You didn't even know where you were.
That was Sosa.
That was
Sosa.
That was
So
Sosa.
let me tell you something.
Oof.
Wrong guy.
So
he said that he's like, that guy hit you and you didn't even know where you were. And the wife corrects him. And he's like, oh, yeah. Because he had the wrong fighter.
Let me tell you something, but I gotta
Tell
go.
when he hit you. You didn't even know where you were.
That was Sosa.
That was
Sosa.
Oh, the Dean comes in and corrects Frank. Oh, poor Frank. He should have just said he hit you.
I know. He's like, I just want to be part of the conversation.
Oh, poor Frank.
All right. What city is he talking about?
Oh, is it the governor of Yor?
It might be somewhere in that vein. I don't know.
It's considered one of the, where he's from, McKees Rock's considered probably one of the roughest cities in the United States. I mean,
where? Keys Rocks?
Yeah, McKees Rocks or something. That's
McKees
what
Rocks?
I heard. Like one of the toughest cities. He didn't say like areas or sections of a city. Didn't he say he was from Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I think
See if
so.
there's McKees Rocks. Borough in Pennsylvania.
Oh, good job, Doug. Look at you doing some
Holy
homework
cow.
there. So McKees Rocks. Okay, let's see how you pronounce that again.
Where he's from, McKees Rocks, considered
Okay,
probably.
all right.
Yeah. McKees, McKees.
I'm gonna have to give that one to Frank there. Yeah, I think he said it okay.
Yeah, but the way, all right, so he said the toughest cities. It's not a city. It's it's a borough in Pennsylvania. And usually, if you would say like, Chicago is a really tough city or Philadelphia is a tough city, like those are well-known cities. He said like McKees Rocks, man, one of the toughest cities ever. Like,
yeah, fair enough. You should say one of the toughest areas, maybe. Toughest
yeah.
Or neighborhood.
And even then, Frank spent some time living in or growing up in Pennsylvania and Philly.
Don't kid yourself. Frank's been around, man. He knows.
Frank is worldly. I know.
He knows the streets.
I'm sorry I doubted you, Frank. I'm sorry.
Yeah, come on now. Hey.
A tutorial on what not to do. Frank could write the very same book about his life.
It's like a tutorial of what not to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was the line, a tutorial of what not to do, the Frank Stallone story.
That'd be a great book. I would read that in a heartbeat.
That's all I had, all the notes that I had.
All right. This was a fascinating interview because Paul himself was a fascinating character. This was the most engaged I've been listening to a podcast that Frank's been on, if that makes sense. Frank's been part of other shows with multiple co-hosts, like the Cow Stills podcast and other ones. Paul was an interesting character. He's been through some stuff. Nadine's a beautiful woman. Frank with his dynamite drop-ins was great. And Mike tried to wrangle the circus in as best as he could. This was an interesting show for sure. I'd be surprised, Doug, by our next Frank episode if he's on another podcast. It seems like they've come out kind of quickly here. We've ignored, through no fault of our own, because of time. We just don't have time. The podcast versions of his life are always the priority in my books. Mm-hmm. But he has been still posting, not crazy busy, because I looked at his Instagram to see, I figured, it's been 2-3 months now. He must have not as much videos as I thought he would have in the time that we haven't gone back. I look back to the videos that we started doing when Trump won in November. Yeah, because it was November. We covered that win that he commented on. And he doesn't have that many. So I think our next episode, barring an unsuspecting podcast visit, we will be doing. Yeah, he is doing a circuit. We'll be doing Instagram. So look forward to that, folks. If you want to send us an email or message, let us know. Again, thanks to everyone who listens to our show. It's the #1 drop on the Last of the Action Heroes podcast network. That's the network I'm referring to. So if you're listening to this on the standalone Frank feed, I appreciate your support there. I also do drop this on the Ramble feed still, even though I said I wasn't going to do that anymore, because a lot of the Ramble listeners who come in kind of Johnny come lately, people are still listening to that podcast, and we naturally segued into the Frank stuff. So it's kind of like, I just keep it there because people joined the Ramble feed who like Frank. So I just kept it there for them. I kind of created the Frank Stallone feed just as a joke, almost, that anyone might actually be looking for a Frank Stallone podcast.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. It's the same with the YouTube version. I put it on the Ramble page and Frank Stallone's Stallone page. So Frank, he's everywhere.
I thank all you listeners for making this a fun show.
Yeah, this is great. So this was a lot of fun, of course. Yeah, that's it for now, guys. Until the next episode, it's probably be Instagram. We'll see each other, Doug, no more than 4 weeks. We'll promise no more than a month between episodes. Okay.
We can make that promise.
Yeah.
Adios.
That concludes another episode of Frank Stallone. Who is this guy?